Good evening, Jacob Fields speaking, and welcome to Adelaide in Focus. I did just hold around for a few minutes there because there's usually a rush of people arriving right on the dot of 8 p.m. So I have just noticed there in the chat that Beck is asking with issues with browser HTML5, video redirecting to YouTube. The platform is based on YouTube, Beck, but do try and refresh the browser if you are having syncing problems there with the visuals. You should be seeing a red property investment event slide there. So yeah, you can actually resize your browser, and if there are any audio-visual problems, probably just try refreshing the browser URL there and it will resync the page. I have got started with a poll there on the right-hand side, just asking everybody where everyone is based. If you could just jump over on the right-hand side of the screen there, and it'd be great to find out where you are all viewing us from tonight. Lots of people coming in from Sydney, always a favourite. There are some controls over there, so you can chat directly to me or ask a question. So just be sure that your chats will come through in a separate panel for me. I will be grabbing all the questions together at the end, and we can have a dedicated question and answer session relating back to some of the content tonight. So just a little bit of housekeeping. It's great to see a nice turnout and lots of people interested in talking about Adelaide. I've got some really special guests tonight. So Peter Colusso, the property professor. He's a lecturer at the University of Sydney, also the TAFE of South Australia, a very well-known figure in his property exploits, and he's a nationally regarded property expert in subdivision, gentrification, and obviously capital growth targeting. Terry Ryder's coming on the line tonight, or pre-recorded. Sorry, I am trying to manage things with the webcast, so these slots will be pre-recorded and inserted in, recorded in the last recent times. Terry is basically, to use his words, seeing Adelaide as the most underrated capital city market in Australia. So I will elaborate on that a little bit, and it'd be great to hear about the comments that Terry has to say about Adelaide and South Australia in particular, and relating that back to the other states across Australia. And then I'll be hearing on the ground from Michael Witherow. So he's a buyer's agent based in Adelaide. We have a great relationship, and he's very well respected. I hold him in very high esteem with the work that he does, the thorough nature that he undertakes for his buyer's agent clients. So we've been lucky enough to have a bit of a sneak peek into the mind of a buyer's agent tonight. How does he see these suburbs shaping up? We will be drilling down. Peter and Terry do make comments around local government areas and suburbs of particular interest. They are reiterated, expanded upon, and even drilled down to some local demographic and population and growth driver information from Michael. So Michael's conversation really rounds out the other opinions very nicely. I'll be then taking a deeper dive into the local government areas featured. We can do some street level analysis. How can we actually invest there? What types of property are people asking for, investing in, and owner-occupiers demanding to live in? What's the demographic that is potentially growing or gentrifying? Yeah, we'll be taking on that journey together. So, yeah, if you, I'll jump back to the poll now. So 36% of you are from Adelaide, only 4% from Melbourne tonight, 8% from Brisbane, 16% so South Australian locals, which is a little bit of a spike. Looks like a couple of you from Tasmania, so a big shout out there. I'm actually speaking from Elizabeth Street here in, that's the main road of Hobart in Tasmania. So big shout out to everyone listening from Hobart. It'd be great to make yourselves known who you are. I'll just start moving forward. Just bear with me a moment. I'm just getting the slides lined up and ready to go. Okay, so a little bit about me first, and this is a bit of a normal introduction I do undertake in each webcast. I've been investing in property for over 10 years. I'll describe myself as a DIY property investor. So I've always believed in empowering myself with knowledge and network and trial and error. I suppose I've made mistakes and I've probably overcompensated and gone in one direction and then gone in the other. Focus on cash flow in recent times, but previously it has been capital growth, negatively gearing. I was able to leave the workforce 9-to-5 job a few years ago, and around that time really put all my attention and focus into Ripe House, which is my labour of love. I love working with individual investors. I love the Ripe House platform and working on it, providing information, and it's a nice synergy between what I enjoy doing. So yeah, when I say a DIY property investor, I enjoy and focus on my own education, rinse, repeat, moving forward towards my property goals and my lifestyle goals, and doing that on my own shoulders is how I describe myself. So just a little bit of housekeeping. We have been rolling out incrementally improvements in our comparables engine. So we have a really robust comparables engine within Ripe House, and this might not be very familiar for some new viewers tonight. We do have an algorithm that's actually got some AI, so artificial intelligence factors to it. It does read and track how people override it. So when it gets it wrong, when people override the automated condition assessment that it does provide, it looks at the sentiment keywords used by the agent. Obviously, they're always positive, but it looks at the keywords and the positives, I suppose, to rank and put a property into poor or unrenovated, average or good or new condition. It does that, and it's getting better and better at doing it. So it's monitoring how people are overriding it at all times. It's getting better at doing it. So there's improvements coming through there. We are cleaning up and making the display of comparable information far more robust. So some really nice quick look information around helping you understand the comparables in the market and how it relates back to the individual property. So you'll see a sneak peek in that tonight. We are upgrading and building out our suburb search, street level and property search. So it's basically asking you a series of questions. It's breaking it down into individual yes or no answers, spitting out recommended tolerances, recommended suburbs that are going to fall in through that net, then find individual sweet spots, streets within those suburbs based on your answers, and then have properties spitting out the other end and allowing you to do the full appraisals on those. That's rolling out very soon. We have our functionality around, we have just recently rolled out our flood zone overlays on the map, allowing you to filter properties currently on the market in or out of flood zones, and then more importantly, see the differential in appraised value for those properties in or out of flood zones. We are rolling out zoning information for suburbs and then being able to filter splittable blocks in and out of those zone areas. So stay tuned for that. We will be also rolling out in the next couple of weeks a very detailed how-to infographic series. So really breaking down some of the key concepts and application to the Ripe House environment and tools and research. So that's just breaking things down. Real sneak peek in the next week, we're getting very close to the national announcement of a very special report, which is going to put a lot of this together, and it is helping us look at a suburb, street and property level across the whole nation, find these hotspots. 56 pages of in-depth research will be contained in this report, and I can't say too much about it because more will be disclosed when the time comes, which is coming up to September. Yeah, about tonight's guest, Peter Colusso, the property professor. I've followed Peter and the work that he does, I think, going right back to 2006, 2007, where in Australian Property Investor, Peter was doing a subdivision and development. I think from memory, it was a corner block that he was turning into 3 dual-story, sort of semi-detached properties. He'll probably correct me if I'm wrong there, but I've sort of followed that with interest. And then that sort of tweaked me onto the whole concept, I suppose, of a property professor, an analytical approach to property investment. It really sort of, it moved it away from black box and looking at things analytically. So I really credit Peter with that way of thinking, and it's great to have him on the line tonight as an expert in the Adelaide market. He's obviously based in Adelaide. It's going to be great to get his insights into the market. We're also going to be hearing from Terry Ryder. He's covering off on Adelaide and South Australia, which is contained in his upcoming Price Predictor Index report, which is released, he said late August, so in the next week or so. And we're going to be hearing his thoughts about how Adelaide compares to the rest of the nation. And does he have any hot tips for local government area suburb levels analysis in the Adelaide region? We'll be also hearing from Michael Witherow. So I have been having conversations with Michael for probably almost a year now, and always impressed by the level of analytical thinking, research and local on-the-ground knowledge in application that Michael does speak of as a buyer's agent in the Adelaide market. So Michael is the Principal, along with Andrew Filmer at Real Team Property Group, a local Adelaide buyers agent who is doing really good things there. So we will be hearing from Michael with his thoughts in the market in application to what Peter and Terry have expanded upon. So let's just run right in now, and I'm going to launch into Terry's thoughts on the Adelaide market.
prices, so well worth considering.
Beautiful. That's amazing info there, Terry. Thank you so much. So just for further information on this, look out at the end of the month for the price. I just had the final part of that interview with Terry cut off there, and I do apologise. So just to reiterate, the information relating to Adelaide is coming up in Terry's Price Predictor Index report, which is coming out at the end of August. Do check that out at hotspotting.com.au for further information. I think the price point that Terry mentioned was $90 plus GST for that. So it's comprehensive, state-by-state roundtable. He looks at 10 pages of due diligence information into each of those reports, and a great source of information for each of those. So just taking that off, I will be jumping into and hearing from Peter in a moment. And it was good to sort of, I suppose, get the Adelaide Geography 101 there, with the sort of sitting where the Western Middle Market sits. You've got the Adelaide CBD, you've got the water over to the I suppose, or western part of the CBD of the city. Then you've also got the Adelaide Airport in that band. So that's one bit of a red flag that Michael will elaborate on as potential to be too close to with flight noise, etc. And then to the north, you've got the Charles Sturt LGA, which is where the university obviously is, and that's the other middle market local government area that Terry was talking. Inland, we're talking Salisbury, which is the cheaper end of the market. Yeah, I suppose Adelaide surprises the nation and surprises me, I suppose, for its dark horse capital growth over the last decade. And Terry just did mention that if you look at a 10-year period, Sydney just bounces through and past Adelaide in the last few years. So I'm just having a couple of you with visual problems. Just let me know, everyone, if you can see and hear me okay. We should be seeing Terry Ryder's slide there in front of us. Yeah, one of the things that Terry does look forward to detect, and this is the basis of the Price Predictor Index report, is sales volume increases. So quarter on quarter sales volume increases in key markets in these states. That is also, we have seen the same things in our research. So as part of our data set within Ripehouse, we do track on-market activity for sale, for rent sales, across all suburbs across Australia, and we're also tracking that, and that is actually reiterated as Adelaide, South Australia, number 2 on our list, very close behind Queensland and Brisbane, southeast Queensland. So we are probably seeing Adelaide at 8 on the property clock. A little bit further along, days on market, I think we're a little bit high for it to be further up through into the 9s or the 10s. You are seeing a lot of the key growth suburbs with sales volume spikes and stable rental markets with higher days on market around 3 to 4 months, which is probably a little bit high to be through to the boom stages of a property cycle, which you're seeing in Sydney with very low days on market, which is probably pretty good for us if we are confident it has turned the corner at the bottom of the property clock, that there is going to be a nice period of growth if it is around that 7-8 period on the property clock, which all indications of Adelaide is pointing in that direction. Just so while we're here, there are 2 buttons down there on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. So a Facebook share and a tweet button. If you are on Facebook or Twitter, do jump on there and like or tweet this webcast and spread the love. It'd be great to increase the audience coming up with the special guests coming through. Marie, very good quality. It's good to hear. We have been working on the audio visual and trying to improve it week on week. And that actually just brings me to another point. No webcast next week. We have got on a run of weekly webcasts. We have got really trying to get things prepped for this blockbuster report that is going to be launched at the end of the month. We're very, very pleased and excited to be releasing this. It's going to be well and truly made up for. I won't be asking you which city or hotspot or region or sweet spot you'd like us to focus on for next week, because I will be touching base next week with that report, and we can refer back to that and go forward with that. Do feel free to get in contact at any time, I suppose, with individual opinion and thoughts in the absence of the webcast. So let's just jump in now and hear from Peter. Yeah, so I suppose what Peter had to say there really did flow on well with Terry's points. He did ask me how I was feeling there at the start of the interview, and I did say I'm getting there because I have been suffering from food poisoning since last Friday. So he was very well aware of that, and I've had to push things back all week. Green shoots. So I do probably relate the green shoots comments back to Terry's early stages of the recovery with sales volume increases quarter on quarter. What we're seeing with our State of the States Q3 report, 8 on the property clock. Peter did reiterate the sales volume increases that he is seeing. We'll only things back to the middle market, so we have got consistency now amongst Terry and Peter with this focus on inner west middle market, so between the city and the airport. We're looking, in summary, at a broadening of appeal, primarily the owner-occupier market. So we're talking previously families is now moving into DINK, double income, no kids type market, professionals working in the city, the suburb is gentrifying. Now, I should have probably pushed Peter and elaborated on those comments because I do know Peter is actually very close to finalising, I think from memory, a thesis on gentrification. So definitely follow up and contact Peter if you'd like further information on that at thepropertyprofessor.com.au. And I probably should have pressed it in relation to the suburbs that he did detail there in the inner west. The gentrification is potentially occurring and it's becoming in vogue for a broader set of demographic or residents. In that they are targeting the prestige, or not prestige, I suppose, but definitely house class property, older properties, and there is scope to support renovation of those properties in line with the expectations set by owner-occupiers, but aspirational potential owner-occupiers are investing in these suburbs, are renting in these suburbs, employing in the city, and that's our target market for tenancies. So that's sort of how I'm sort of seeing things and trying to summarise things together. And this is obviously my assessment and judgment in bringing the two comments together. So forgive me if I'm wrong. Do jump in, and we will be sort of elaborating and jumping and potentially going off in a different direction at question and answer time at the end. But in summary, let's look to middle market. So West Torrens local government area are the fee buttons, west that Peter's talking about, and then the city of Charles Sturt, just to the north of that. Suburbs like Croydon, etc., that Terry has mentioned, is this inner middle market with growth appeal. Let's move along. It's going to really sort of tie things out nicely in hearing from Michael Witherow from the Real Team Property Group. He's going to be giving some really insightful on-the-ground information about what he's seeing in Adelaide at the moment. I'll just get started with Michael. Yeah, I suppose relating that back now to, it was Michael really did round that out very nicely in his in-depth understanding, I suppose, of the local dynamics, and his point around the effects of the Holden employment on the immediate area surrounding it, and the mismatch there between income levels and the demographic and income levels of the residents of the surrounding area was such an amazing point, and it really got me thinking because, I have been hearing, the doomsayers coming in about Salisbury for a number of years, like literally a number of years, and even, before the official announcement of Holden, there was the news story there. And, in reality, it's still performing. Sales volumes are still increasing. It is still number 2 on Terry's list in that metric. And it just hits home there when Michael does elaborate on, in application, who's actually going to be affected by the employment and where are they living, and potentially spread out evenly across the middle market in Adelaide surrounding the Salisbury area. So Michael did also touch on the broadening appeal there. He did sort of give some insight into the geography of the, in the middle market area, the geography and the bit of the catch there with the airport. So we will focus on those issues in our street-by-street assessment, which I'll dive into in a minute. But I just thought that was great with Michael there. So if you want any further details, Michael's definitely happy as a buyer's agent in the area to talk further with you if you'd need some further advice or, all the way through with the services that he provides at therealteam.com.au. And I have got his phone number there, 0882324799. So, let's move forward. Just rounding out, the advice and commentary, I suppose, tonight has been provided in good faith by Peter, Terry and Michael. I have tried to tie it together and lead the conversation in a conversation, I suppose. Into summary, gentrification has already been occurring. That's a consistent theme we are seeing, and gentrification in this case is meaning broader appeal. So we've got new demographics potentially with high incomes moving into the middle market in the inner west areas of Adelaide, and we have the Salisbury, which is the cheaper market, secondary with lower price point, high yield, being driven by employment and population growth into the area, not necessarily wage growth. And that's a big star there outside of the Holden plant closure. It's still generating increasing sales volumes moving forward. Generally, in both areas of focus, look for house stock for the wider appeal to the wider appeal, and look for the and the point I've already made, employment risks are somewhat mitigated. Look, I will use these slides just to get people thinking how we can dissect Adelaide. I haven't personally been to Adelaide, and it's been on my bucket list for a long time. I'm really interested in and looking forward to coming over and visiting Adelaide as soon as possible with a young family. It's a luxury at the moment. I can't wait to come over and put all of this thought and research into visible practice. In the meantime, we can see and we sort of know, going back to the Ripe House is a spatial platform. We relate certain amenities, higher price pockets of property with amenities, location of amenities, public housing, high rents, high yields, high incomes, high levels of owner-occupiers, etc. Lots of property, houses versus units, and we relate all that back to price. What we see here is a couple of graphs, and if you haven't seen them before, it's relating distance away from the closest shop, school and transport, and how that distance affects the appraised value of the property. And this is an average across all Australian capital cities. We do relate this back to a suburb level in our comparables and appraisals engine. But basically it's telling you too close can be too close for schools. Don't be right on the doorstep. 200 to 400 metres is a sweet spot. After a kilometre, you drop off a cliff. All the way out to 1,200 metres with shopping is okay. After 1,200 metres, you're off a cliff. Transport, right on the doorstep is good, but right at a kilometre away from your closest transport hub is the sweet spot. After that mark, it starts drooping off. When you combine all of those sweet spots together for each of those amenities, you can expect to pay, or a property is expected to be valued at 25% over the suburb median. If you're in the over 1,500 metres away from each of those key amenities in the suburb of interest, expect to pay 20% lower than the suburb median. So very, very important to keep an eye on that when we start taking this street level drill down into the suburbs that have been mentioned. Public housing, avoid to seek out. So there is public housing in some of these lower socio-economic areas. How does that affect the appraised value of property? If you've got 0% public housing in your street, expect to pay 25% more than the average for a property in that street compared to the suburb. And with 18% or more public housing, expect to pay 20% less from the property. So that will then gain a bit of, that'll sort of be drilled home a little bit further in our street-by-street analysis in a moment, which we'll jump into. I'll skip through this slide. I'm really aware of time and we are going way over. It is going to be sort of finalising around the 9:20 mark by the looks of it now. So I do apologise. Usually I do try and stick to the hour, but I have had some amazing, content coming through this week in forming the content, and I really wanted to get it all in. So I do apologise about the time set, but this is all about being able to make clear, concise decisions, informing us at every level along the way. So at a regional or even a state level, how is Adelaide and South Australia comparing to the nation? Ticking that box. Where's it on the property clock? Ticking that box. Local government areas, suburbs, where do we focus on? Ticking that box. Drilling down to a street and property level, ticking those boxes, making sure we're investing in the absolute sweet spots in the suburbs of interest that are going to drive our strategies forward. So that's what it's referring to when we avoid spinning our wheels. So improving our daily process so we can process that information. Tonight is hopefully helping in our analysis of the Adelaide market, and avoid spinning our wheels, avoid analysis paralysis, gain that professional's mindset. This is the mindset that a professional in the market is adopting to buy. So a buyer's agent or a professional investor. This is allowing us with this information to invest in fast-moving remote markets with lots of upside, potentially like Adelaide, and making our due diligence process efficient. And central to this whole concept is using the right tools. So I'd love to jump in now and have a look at the White House platform. This is allowing us to do suburb by suburb street and property analysis, becoming local area experts in unfamiliar locations across the country and finding the absolute sweet spots in them. I'm going to be focusing on the West Torrens and Charles Sturt local government area to start with, then just jumping quickly into Salisbury, and just as bonus points, looking at the Oka Coringa local government area, which Michael has been speaking to me about in the last few days, which is somewhere that he is looking at as well. For those of you that don't know, this is using the White House version 3 suburb analysis tools, which was released last November. So I'm just going to switch over to the slides, to the page now in the browser, and there may be a little bit of a jump when I go over to my browser now and get started. My apologies about that, everybody. I didn't realise that the audio had then fed back on itself, and someone's just pulled me up there on chat. I apologise. Yeah, I really do apologise about that, and I'll fill the blanks in there. I have skipped through and started looking at a property that was located in the area of interest within Brooklyn. This is one of the sweet spot areas that we have just found using our custom overlays. The property on the market there we've been able to load up and view. Look, I will perform a quick apologies about that, everybody. I did market appraisal on this property. It's really thrown me off in my analysis of Brooklyn Park. Look, I will just take the time and I'll rerun this filter again. So we have got the 200 dwelling lots applied to the map there. We are avoiding these high levels of public housing and potential crime that Brooklyn potentially is at risk of. So let's now display only properties that are physically located in those orange custom strategy areas. As Peter, Michael and Terry have referred to, let's focus on 3 or 4 bedroom houses. Our absolute priority or guiding light may be Federation or older types of properties that are unrenovated. We could potentially manufacture some growth on those, move them through the price spread and profit, and then the finished product will then appeal to that very wide demand from the gentrification occurring in some of these suburbs. So that will be bonus points if we can find it. 4 properties are now passing muster. So 4 properties are on the market across the whole of the suburb that are in these sweet spot locations. One of them has been overly optimistic in the description used by the agent, describing it as a unit when it potentially isn't. Jumping into there, if it's a standalone, semi-detached, etc., they will sometimes be ambitious in their descriptive terms. One has price withheld, been on the market for 28 days. We can see if it's been discounted or not when they have been using the software. 16 days, 345 is our this property that's been on the market for 16 days, and the other one is under contract Let's start here. So each of those two properties on the market potentially can be drilled down further. This property sitting here, reasonably well presented from the outside, street appeal wise, probably average compared to the market. It's not jumping out at me. Very well presented. So renovated all throughout, new kitchen, polished floorboards, nice and neutral presentation, renovated bathroom, reasonably tidy outside, but probably could be tidied up a little bit more. So this is going to be appealing to that wide part of the middle market, wide part of the demographic and demand for tenants and owner occupiers, potentially on the flip side for sale if that was the choice. Potential with some scope to improve from the outside, but definitely in that average to good condition. The engine has gone in and automatically assessed the condition as good, as I mentioned previously with the technology we have here. We can see the full listing history, suburb level quick look information, so we can track and all trending information for sale price, for rent, sold price, all the volumes that we need, sold volumes, days on market, yield, vacancy rate. So we can track that and see if we are comfortable. We've done our street level analysis. It is reiterated again here for us. It goes away and finds the top 6 comparables that are most likely to be in a similar condition, recent sale, close to the property in question, 3-bedroom houses. It's giving us some quick look information around a comparable sales price increase. That is for not all properties that are sold in the market. That is for 3-bedroom houses in a similar condition. So very important comparable knowledge that we've got there. Number of comparable sales, so that's giving us on the volumes for that particular type of property, sales per month going back 6 months. This is the added functionality we're adding through our comparables page. So this is giving back the top 6 comparables. Generally, we have got the power to curate this list and remove if we disagree. This is very important. This is not a static comparables list that has got no control, that's been spat out of a printer. This is giving you the absolute power to control the comparables. And that's important to do because you need to be certain of the appraised value of a property, and you can potentially negotiate with the agent based on the comparables that they are using to artificially inflate the asking price. So you can question those, you can dispute them, and you can provide your own comparables for them to validate. So when I do this process, one's jumping out here as 649 outside of the average of the other 5. Looking at that right on the surface, it's a far superior property, and we can remove that, and it will insert the 7th most likely comparable into the mix. We can curate that list, we can go to the nth degree there, and we can really own that process, but it's going to take the top 6 comparables through to the appraisal stage here. It's going to tell us how the property is likely to be appraised based on its location. It's a little bit too far away from schools, but it's great location, shopping, transport, public housing, so it's almost neutral in its location. And it gives us a final appraisal price, estimated rent and yield, and we can print all that off in a report. So we can do that for every on-market property. We can also do it for every off-market property, which might be already in our portfolio, and we want to monitor a sale or potential sale. We can do that very easily. So I can jump through. I am rushing through things quite quickly, potentially looking over here into neighbouring suburbs, Torrensville, applying the same suburb street level sweet spot analysis. Let's look for and apply the same tolerances once again. Load those settings up because we've saved them. What are we seeing here? Sometimes we need to customize these tolerances to the suburb in question. And in that case I have. Okay, now we're seeing 4 custom areas that are passing muster. So 800 dwellings in the suburb that are worth considering based on our tolerances and our assumptions for the sweet spots we want to target. Just so you know, these 2 down here in the corner are actually bordering Brooklyn Park. And if we go over here to Mile End, there are another 2 areas in this bordering section that are bordering our 2 sweet spots down here. So 6 areas in a row that are very closely together geographically. People are wanting to live in the same area, driving strong tenant demand, high rents, high yields, very powerful combination. So more properties we can filter here. This is added to our daily shortlist, and that's our due diligence process per day, going through the key suburbs that we're looking at, filtering it down using our custom sweet spots to the key streets, filtering properties in or out of those streets, and only appraising the properties that we see coming into the market in those key areas. So we're getting our process down to a very efficient daily process doing that. As I mentioned, check into Miles End and over into Thebarton and over into Brooklyn Park using the same process. But let's just jump quickly over into Salisbury. I want to run these numbers through Salisbury as an alternative, see what our yields are going to be like. Okay, so all the information that you'll generally usually get at a suburb level, Ripehouse provides to you at a street level. So we have very robust spatial algorithms that do calculate that and provide it. And in this case, when you're coming in and say you're having a very high yield strategy, Salisbury's come up on your list as generally high yielding. You want to still achieve 7% yield as an example, but Salisbury itself only has 5.3% yield. So the darker the yellow overlay, when you click on the yield overlay, the higher the yield. And if you click on this this dark yellow area here, it's actually, you'd expect to achieve 7% yields in that street area in this suburb. And over in these green areas, the lower yielding areas, is around the 4% yield mark. So you can make suburbs work, even though the suburb average yield does not hit your minimum requirement. You can make it work by targeting the highest yielding streets in the suburb. Let's run our numbers through our sweet spot comparison. We'll load up our custom settings. Sorry if I'm skipping through this very quickly. There's a lot to go into here, and I am aware of time. I just want to see which areas may be selected, and you can see how I'm applying the same principles. So this is where we can tighten up our range of yield, and we can really focus on the absolute highest yield potential in the suburb, or we can open it out to the median or above. Then we can apply that. Then we can filter our properties and view the only those properties that are currently on the market in those locations, because otherwise we have to wade through 59 properties. We've gone out across the internet, we've aggregated all for sale listings for you and done the search, brought them into one place, but you still want to get through them quickly and process them. Let's pause there. I won't go into the Okaparinga local government area. Do jump onto the Ripehouse tool and search for Okaparinga. Moana, there's a suburb there that is of note. Michael's got some excellent information, expert opinion there on that suburb attached within the Ripehouse platform, so check that out. And if you'd like further information, Michael is definitely an expert in that local government area on 08 8232 4799. I was going to be going into that and demonstrating tonight in some more detail, but due to time and the problems there with the audio, I've had to delegate that over to Michael, which will work very well. So I hope you found that informative. That is really just touching the surface there. I've done it again, I'm sorry. Let's flick over to the slides. I've really only touched the surface there with the map analysis screen. You can see all current for rental properties, sold properties within the last 3 years visible on the suburb map. You can actually see suburbs close to each other that have high capital growth, flipping or cash flow potential. And we've just rolled out functionality to view where flood zones are across the Brisbane area. So you can filter properties in and out of those flood zones. Let's move forward within the slides. I just want to summarise really quickly how we can potentially use all of this information at a regional, suburb, street, property level to potentially buy below market. So it's becoming a local area expert, finding the sweet spots and assessing value for properties in those sweet spots against other properties in the sweet spot. So apples for apples. We were then with those properties, comparing apples with apples, we're having to form valid condition assessments for the property. So there's no point comparing an unrenovated property with a renovated property, but there's scales and degrees of difference, making sure we are clumping them into homogenous groups and comparing property against other like properties. So being confident of those condition assessments, making sure that condition assessment is subjective to the suburb overall, and then the engine and we can go away and find valid comparables that are both timely, similar condition and location to our property in question. Then we can apply any location-based adjustments. Then we've got our fair market value. Then we can potentially pull together all the information that we can use to negotiate under market. So dispute comparables, condition assessments, listing history, vendor distress, public housing, any negative factors we can find, we can potentially leverage and buy below that market price that we have set. So for more information, check out ripehouse.com.au/blog. Jump onto the email list there at the bottom and you'll be forwarded through a 3-pack of ebook reports that we have: Buyer's Guide to Property Investment, Know Your Purchase Strategy, and the Q3 State-by-State report, which is a nice summary and elaborates on those concepts to potentially buy below market. So just a little bit of feedback around others that are currently with us and using the Ripehouse tools and the Ripehouse research community. Guy over there on the left has recently purchased in Logan. There has been a question from Lee around the comparison between Brisbane and Adelaide. How do they compare? I know Guy has recently purchased in Logan a few months ago now. Had some great success using the software and purchasing there. And then Dave Ward there on the right spoke very highly. Has never seen a tool as good as this throughout his career in helping with his research at the Yes Stepping Stone Property Group. Just a little bit of feedback, bringing that back to the point that Ripe House, the tools, the research and the support that I provide is an annual subscription service. So normally you can access that at $997 out to in the wild, and that includes everything you've seen tonight as far as the tools, access to my time and research. But as a thank you for joining us tonight, I'd love to extend a $200 discount for that annual subscription price to our listeners who have stuck around and persisted through the audio problems, etc. Bringing that annual price down to $7.99 per year. And as a special guest, a special thank you for your attendance. And to make it accessible, I'm opening my time up, opening my time up for one-on-one DIY investment coaching in using the tools, in applying it to the suburbs that you're looking at across the nation, applying it back to your strategy, making sure the regional street, suburb street and property assessment is matching your outcomes that you are trying to achieve for your lifestyle and potential retirement. So I'm opening my time up there via Skype, email, phone, whatever it takes to purchase your first property using the platform and tools. So that is available to those who join within the next hour. I've just popped up something there on the right-hand side of the screen, which is an ability to subscribe to Ripe House using that orange button, subscribe to Ripe House, to lock in that special offer for the hour period. I have added a couple of minutes on there just for rounding it up. You can also, without clicking on that button, go to www.ripehouse.com.au/meet Ripehouse. You can lock that price in there at $7.97 on that link, and you can also subscribe to a monthly subscription model at $97 per month, which you can cancel at any time. No commitment if that does suit your needs a little bit further. So that is the biggest thank you. I really hope you've found the content and the format tonight beneficial. But as an extra thank you, really tying it all together, I'd love to, in addition to the $200 discount on the one-on-one coaching offer a free hotspot report from hotspotting.com.au. So Terry Ryder is providing a report to us as part of this deal for $77, which is only available for the next hour if you do sign up. That can be your top 5 Adelaide hotspots, top 5 Brisbane hotspots, etc. We can work together and work out which report is going to be most appropriate to you, and that is available for the next hour only. So I will open up the floor now. I hope you found the format, and I'd love to hear your comments and feedback around the format, success and failures, what can be improved, and what is going well. I do apologise about the audio problems there, and I've got the audio feedback, and it really wasn't a nice, pleasant experience. To that end, grab my time. You've got my mobile number there. If you want to reach out and focus on any suburbs in particular that we might have skipped over or missed, do jump in, and potentially, you're more than welcome to contact my guests for further information. They're the experts in the field as well. So, just before I jump into questions, I will pause for a few moments while the questions do come through. Feel free, anything in regards to the suburbs we've talked about, street level analysis, what type of tolerances for certain things might suit your strategy, what are you trying to achieve? Let me know, and we can talk back and forth. I'll pause the audio there for a few moments because there is a little bit of a lag in the questions coming through. Okay, keep those questions coming through, guys. I am aware of time, and I usually try and stick to the hour format, but I'll go through them. Please jump in. I will get to Lee's question here. How does South Australia compare with other markets? So again, particularly Southeast Queensland and Tasmania is Lee's question. I suppose we can step it back up a couple of levels. What do we define as something that we are targeting? Being underrated, does that mean that the growth hasn't occurred yet and is likely to occur in the future? Potentially, there's no point, a Sydney market as an example in the current times, and to an extent, Adelaide market is, we're, differing opinions, but from what we've been seeing in our numbers within Ryder, very close to the market peak, and has already started to turn in quite a few key markets throughout Sydney. There are some exceptions to the rule, and we can potentially focus on Liverpool and Campbelltown areas as those exceptions. So obviously, when you're asking, how does it compare, it's definitely lower in the property cycle compared to Sydney, and that's a good thing for what we're trying to do, obviously. It compares very similarly to Brisbane. And I suppose the key difference is being underrated, the metrics are stacking up very similar. We've got high yields, or reasonably high yields, and some of the key markets throughout Adelaide have some of the highest capital city yields across the country. So that might suit a high yielding strategy where Brisbane may potentially have the more growth towards the upside. But having said that, Brisbane's a really funny market because, northern quadrant of Brisbane, inner city out to 12, 15 Ks, G-bungs and in, is very hot. It's Sydney-like conditions, and now into the Logan local government areas. 3 months ago, lots of investors were working through White House, and I was working with them in the local government areas, Logan government areas. It's now very difficult to buy and source good quality stock through those areas. So now our eyes are now drawn into other areas across Brisbane, which may have been our second and third options a few months ago. Having said that, the Moreton Bay region is very strong, up to Sunshine Coast and Caloundra. A lot of interest using White House users in those areas, and we also focused on Caloundra last week in our weekly webcast, and also Ipswich. So I'm holding, based on the numbers, Adelaide is right up there with those key markets. Definitely, probably more growth upside when compared to the hot markets in Brisbane and Sydney. Having said that, potentially easier to buy. So we still need to buy into these markets, and if we can negotiate, we can buy on the market. We can, what we assess as market, it's more of a buyer's market. It is more in those earlier stages of growth and recovery. That is all the better, and potentially Adelaide is giving more scope to do that at the moment. Tasmania is an exception, and we were speaking of Tasmania very highly earlier on in the year. And I do obviously live in Hobart, and I follow the Tasmanian market very closely. I hold a lot of property here, majority of my portfolio here. Having said that, we've had a few false starts. There was some very strong trending and alignment of our metrics that we look at to determine property position on property clock earlier on in the year. Sales volumes were nicely increasing and stable. Days on market starting to decrease, rent increasing per week. Growth was, property prices were stable and growing. There has been 10-year patches of growth in Hobart that has outperformed other capital city markets, so it's definitely capable of that growth. However, it is being compromised at the moment. Days on market has just increased up again. Sales volumes has become patchy. You've got the 5K ring in Hobart is still performing very well, but outside of that is very patchy. So, yeah, that's sort of a big synopsis across the three areas. Adelaide is potentially, and Terry mentioned it first, underrated. Compares on all key metrics very similarly to Brisbane and some of the key markets throughout Brisbane, but Adelaide would be underrated compared to them. In the analysis, the property was focused on at Marion Road. This road is a relatively major road, yet the property was being compared to other sales in non-commercial roads. Is there a way you can filter out major roads? Henry, yeah, absolutely good, very, very valid point, and that's absolutely correct. I did skip through the comparables quite quickly there, and obviously left in a property that is on a commercial road, or the property in question is on a commercial road. That's not relevant, and it's an inferior property. I use it as my assessment on street appeal, and I'll deduct a property as a comparable or not based on that. There is no way of, at the moment, filtering properties quickly in the comparables. The comparables engine is not that smart to do that. It's a great point. Having said that, I do implement that on a daily basis using the comparable analysis. That manual vetting and control over the comparables that you are using is very important and allows you to push those out. So yeah, very good question. And if you wanted to drop me a line there, Henry, I can elaborate that and I can work with you on some strategies to make that far more efficient. But I will leave it there. Feel free to get in touch on jacob.field@ripehouse.com.au with any further questions. Thanks for the positive feedback around the audio phone recordings tonight, Marie. It was a big improvement on 2 weeks ago, and we are trying to get better in our process here, get things more refined and smooth for us all. So thanks for sticking around, and I hope you found the content and the special guests tonight insightful.